This week we are here with Kavi. Kavi actually, and I love this, just flew in for the show. It's the second time I've ever had this. I didn't know I was getting that big that I was able to have people fly in, but we had Ms. Daisy who flew in a couple months ago, and now Kavi is here, flew in from Miami to come be on the Self-Starter Show. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
So tell me, what is it that you're doing right now? I know right now you flew into New York to be on the show, but as a whole, as an artist, what are you doing right now? What's your life like?
So I'm just really busy working on a lot of originals right now. I just had a show actually about a month back at the World Trade Center at the New York Culture Club. Just really wonderful. It was a sold out show. So that was amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was such a good opportunity.
How long have you been in the art game?
Full time. This is my 6th year. And before that, I was actually doing real estate.
Oh, so
Yeah.
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So right now, where is your art displayed? Like, where are you putting your stuff out? Where are you putting yourself out there?
So I'm actually not affiliated with a gallery right now.
Is that by choice?
It is actually not really by choice. It's just really hard to break into the gallery scene for me. I just haven't had, the few galleries that I have had like represent me. During COVID, they no longer exist now.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was just really rough.
Why is that?
It was just really hard for a lot of businesses to be, reach that, breakthrough COVID. A lot of businesses failed during that time.
That's unfortunate.
People weren't buying art as a luxury purchase.
How was COVID for you?
So COVID for me was definitely a struggle. I really hit a wall. I wasn't getting a lot of business, and I had just moved into a new studio, which I was paying a higher rent. And so I started working on more originals, and I started really growing my Instagram account, and that really helped me. I was able to get some mural opportunities.
I love that, because I know a common theme is during COVID, a lot of people were able to lean in on growing their business on the back end, because that's what they had to do. So if you're a creator, if you're a creative, then what else do you have to do? Then do what you love and put it out for the world to see. And the only way to do that wasn't physically, it was on the interweb.
Definitely. I just remember laying on the sofa in my studio and just crying.
I was just going to say.
And just staring at the art. And then all of a sudden, I heard this little voice, and it was just like, Kavi, you are crying, but you're not doing anything about it. Like, what are you creating? What are you showing? This is your opportunity to show. And you're just wallowing in this pity party, And I started doing a bunch of mock-ups at night. I have 2 kids. And so I was just like able to do some mock-ups at night after I put them to bed. And I started getting all these ideas. And then I started creating them in the studio while I could. And I involved the boys too. And so we did like airplane sculptures. I was able to do like a pop-up show locally. And I invited a lot of friends, sold out show. And then I just started posting more and more and more. And I really just grew from there.
Do you have a muse?
Oh, my muse?
Yes.
Honestly, it's almost every woman that I meet that I connect to on a really deep personal level, that I can see a little bit of myself in them. They're my muse. Like, I love traveling and just meeting people all the time. Like, I'm inspired by just having conversations with people and feeling like they're authentic. And a lot of my work, you can't see the faces of the women or their eyes. And like, that's because for me, it's about who they are on the inside and not outside exterior beauty,
Do all the women that you put in your art, do they depict an actual person that you've met?
They do.
Every single one?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, do you name each painting or each piece of art? Do you name it after that woman who inspired you to make that?
It really just depends. It could be either their name or it could be like part of their personality, and I'll name it after that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love human interaction, as you could imagine, and I believe in positive energy. I'm not the most religious person. Actually, I'm not religious at all. A little bit maybe. But I'm very spiritual, and I do believe in fate, and I do believe in positive and negative energy, and that people give off certain energy.
Definitely.
And it seems to be a common theme in your life.
Definitely. And like for me, some of the women that I've met even through online, like especially I meet a lot of people through Instagram, and it's so funny, like even if it's through Instagram, I can kind of tell like how that person is. And each time that I've forced it and I've met that person in person, I'm like, oh no, and I cannot create with the muse that I cannot like feel like this person is I don't want to say a good person, but just like a person that I can relate to.
Totally. But like that's part of, I don't want to say the growing pains, but that's part of growing and like getting better at your business. It's knowing when you didn't go with your gut, and here's what happened.
Right.
And
intuition.
Intuition.
All about intuition.
Intuition. How important is intuition in your business?
Oh, so, I remember when I first had a show in Miami, and I was like, it was when I decided my first year I was going to just do art, dive in full time. And I was in Wynwood, and
the Mecca.
And I started doing like pop art, like stuff with like brand names, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, you name it, Hermes, and like I felt so hollow inside. Like it was not fulfilling. It was just
Is
like,
it because you were doing it because you thought that this is what other people are going to want to see?
It was fast art. Yeah, it was a fast sale. I was like, I want to get the money. Like, let's go. I sold everything. Like I have nothing from those collections, but I still felt empty. Like I was like, this doesn't feel authentic to me. Like, sure, I like to dress nice. I like certain brand names, but like my calling wasn't that. Like I had to really tap into that. Like, what does that say about me? Does my art want to represent, these names? And that's not knocking the artists that do that, but like I knew there was something more. And then I was never really that like involved in my community, like Indian community. And I've always wanted to. It's because I traveled so much. I moved around a lot.
Where are your parents from?
So my parents are originally from India, and then I grew up in California. But we moved from California to Virginia to Atlanta, then Florida, and then it's just
What was the reason?
And then
for
now
all the
they're in
moving?
Texas. My dad's always like helped his family with their businesses, so it was just we moved around a lot, So I didn't have like, to me, like a stable community. And I created that with my art. And I was getting ready for Art Basel in Miami. And
Circa 2000.
19.
Okay.
And I had my first Indian muse. Her name was Ami Desai, and I met her through Instagram. I reached out to her. We started talking, and that one piece, honestly, to me, like, started my whole career. Like, the trajectory of that piece, it was called I Am, and, like, I had it actually tattooed during one of my first shows in New York, and, like, it was the first time I listened to my intuition. I ignored it for so long, and it never made me feel good. I didn't know why. And it wasn't until I'm like, I'm supposed to create a community of strong, powerful women through my art, because I never had that growing up. So, yeah.
Speaking of growing up, first of all, what you just said resonates so hard. Like, if there's like, I do this show because I want to try and extract something from everybody.
Yeah.
And like, that hits home so much for me. And I hope it hits home so much for everyone else too.
Yeah.
Where did it all begin? Like, were you an artist as a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old? Were you always doing art as a kid?
Yeah.
And then you just like put it on the side? Where did this come from?
I want to say, remember when I was like, people ask you when you're little, probably like, I want to say like 4 or 5 years old, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember the first thing I said was, I want to be an artist. And my mom and dad were like, you mean a doctor? An orthopedic surgeon?
Yeah.
And so then when people would ask me later, I'd say, I want to be an orthopedic surgeon. And I think back to that moment a lot because it was never fostered. You know, it was just like art, hobby side, you know, and...
Well, it's part of the culture.
Definitely part of the culture. There's no security, as much security. And, but I was always getting in trouble for drawing on the walls, on the sofas, in my room, melting crayons on the light, experimenting all the time. Like,
well, when we were younger, being a creator was not a profession.
Very true.
You weren't aspiring to be
Yeah.
a creator. And we'll call it an artist at the time, but now it's, you know, the more broad is a creator.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you leaned in on it as you got older.
I did. And I still remember my art teacher in 6th grade called my parents in and were like, you know, I think she should maybe submit her work to like SCAD. I think she would be so great. And I remember my dad saying, she doesn't even really do art that much. Like, what do you mean she can be an artist? You know, she can do it on the side if she wants to do it. And
I'm like picturing your dad with the accent and like,
oh yeah,
like art? No, she's going to be a doctor.
Yeah, ridiculous. Yeah. Actually, they were so adamant on like pharmacy, but so I was pre-pharmacy in college.
Gotcha.
That didn't last long, but I'm self-taught. I never went to school for art.
Love that.
Yeah, so I've always just experimented and dabbled in, and I still like, that's the beauty of art, right? Like even now, there's so many things I don't know, but the beauty of the internet, like constantly, like meeting other creators and sharing your wisdom and Googling things, you know?
So you were telling us, but you got into a profession as a real estate agent. When did that happen? So by doing that, I'm assuming art kind of took a back seat.
Yeah, so I only created as a hobby at that time. And I was so driven by, I mean, to tell you truthfully, I was driven by the sense of security because that was ingrained in me. Real estate's not as secure, but it's more secure than being an artist.
Ish. It all depends. Cause
Yeah.
It depends. Like with anything, as you can attest with your art, it's what you put into it.
Right.
And I'm sure you see artists in the circuit who are artists, but they're not putting as much into their work, and they might actually fall into the category of starving artists.
That's true.
And same thing in real estate, whereas some people might say, I want to do this, I want to do that.
Yeah.
But like, you know, we only make money as real estate brokers when we transact. And if people are doing 40 transactions a year, but they're, you know, renting $2,500 apartments or selling $500,000 homes, those 40 transactions aren't going to equate to that much.
That's true. I was very lucky. I had an older realtor who was very seasoned and in the business, and he took me under his wing and had so much business with the condos on the beach.
Why you? Why did he take you in?
He just saw that I was hungry, you know, and I am, and I still am with art, you know. It's like I'm such a hard worker. Like that is something, like I'll put my kids to bed, I'll go to the studio. Like to me, when I do something, it's like something, I'm just so passionate about so many things. So that's why like I loved real estate so much, because I love meeting people. With art, I love art also because I get to connect with my community and my people. And so I had to pick one because I couldn't do both, because art was taking off and I had to really choose. Plus I had two really young kids at that time. They're older now. So
what was the catalyst in your art business that made you drop real estate?
So, well, at that time, my husband, he and I made a bet. He was like, you should do art full time and not do real estate. And, you know, we were bickering back and forth with each other because, you know, with real estate, you're on the weekends, you're constantly showing and you're, you know, really it depends on when people get off of work. You're really just catering to them, you know? You don't really get to choose your hours. It's not as flexible as people think.
Yep.
And so I was missing a lot of family time, and it was really difficult. And
it wasn't fair to the kids.
Right. And even though we had help, it was a really, it was a strain on our relationship. And so he was like, I'd lost a bet. I think it was over a TV show. Like, I'd always make silly bets and stuff with him.
Like, she's going to get a rose?
Yeah, or more like, I think it was like True Blood, to tell you the truth.
Oh.
Do you remember that show?
Of course I remember
Yeah,
True
so
Blood.
I think I said like, Sookie.
I bet you she's a fairy.
Yeah, I was like, Sookie's not going to hook up with, or just something silly. And I definitely lost, right? So he's like, now you got to do art for like 6 months. He said 6 months straight. And I said, you just want me to stay home, you know? And he's like, well, see what it does. See how it takes off. And so I said, 6 months is way too long. I was like, 3 months. He's like, okay, 3 months. Here I am 6 years later.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. And I'm assuming there had to have been a point. 3 months. Was there a point where you were like, I need to pack this up and go find a new job because art is not going to cut it?
Oh, no. In 3 months, I had my first show in Wynwood.
How many pieces did you have to prepare for that?
I had 8 pieces. Build some collectors.
Build some collectors?
Like I was able to like build my collector base by that show, and they bought so many pieces. So I was just meeting people I had never met before just from this show, and so they were able to just, like, one of them, for example, like sponsored me to have a booth in Spectrum and during Art Basel.
Wow, what's the cost on something like that?
It was 2019. I want to say it was probably close to maybe like $5,000.
Okay.
You know,
to have a booth. At the which event?
During Art Basel.
Yeah.
At Spectrum.
Is that the big tent?
Yeah. No, not the big tent. It's Spectrum is right in Wynwood.
Okay.
So there's so many like different fairs, and then I created that piece, the I Am piece, and somebody saw it in New York who was building a restaurant, and they asked me to do a mural. I had never done a mural before, and my first mural was Gup Shop in Union Square, and it's still there.
What did you charge for it?
I'd rather not say.
Did you charge enough?
I did not.
Okay.
He was tough negotiator.
Okay.
And it was my first one, you know?
But not for nothing. By doing that, you add it to the resume, and it's like, I did that.
It's reaped so many benefits.
There you go. So
yeah.
You might not have got the monetary return
Correct.
Directly, but you got the monetary return indirectly.
Right. And that's another thing too. Like, intuitively, that's when I started listening to my intuition, and like for me to be guided through that, and not just fast money, you know, like fast pieces. So yeah.
What do you do for self-education? Because that's what I'm hearing right now. I'm hearing like intuition and really like following your mind and your heart. Are you reading anything? Do you listen to podcasts?
I'm always listening to podcasts. I love Mel Robbins. I love Lewis Hayes.
Well, now keep going.
Yeah, I'm a Jay Shetty fan. I just love anything. Oh, Young Pueblo. I just finished his book Lighter. Took me a while to get through it, but it was beautiful.
Have you read any Ryan Holiday?
I haven't.
Very, very good with, I guess, the same theme with what you're talking about, with just having peace of mind and focusing. And I've read a couple of his books, and each one kind of touched me in the same way.
Yeah.
Where it really helped me to just put blinders on and focus, because we live in a world where it's easy to lose focus.
Right.
It's easy to like be pulled in many directions, especially, I mean, you go on social media for work, and like you're doing all this stuff for your work to get inspiration, to connect with people, but then something pops up, and now you just spent 5 minutes, 8 minutes watching this video, that video, that's irrelevant.
Right.
And if anything, like, it might be irrelevant in the moment, but then the lasting effect it has on your mind for the next 2 hours is even worse.
Well, what's funny is when I first started, I would be, of course, like almost anyone, weirdly obsessed with the likes and the interactions. And after I started doing so much like inner work, it's so healthy, like how I do social now. It's just, I go on there, do my stories, post. Yeah, I will do some late night scrolling sometimes, but like it doesn't matter what other people are doing. Like, I love seeing my friends succeed, but before it was like, and that's a confidence thing, right? It grows within time.
Absolutely. And as you have more accolades,
Yes.
Not that you're getting on their level, but you're getting on, you're just elevating your own level.
Yes. And like, that takes so much work though, like I can say never once now, like I can look at somebody online and be like, oh, I wish I was in their place, or because I am in the place I'm supposed to be in.
100%. And I could hear that from like everything you consume, just knowing the famous people who you consume.
Yeah.
Are there people within your industry though that you look at as I want to aspire to be as big as them, I want to do that type of show?
Yeah.
Like, I know that Shermeen's going to Cannes. Like, would you love to be able to do a pop-up in Cannes?
I would love that, especially, so I went to Tokyo a few years ago, and one of my favorite artists that I aspire to be like is Swoon, and she is actually based in Brooklyn, and she creates such beautiful installations, and that is my goal one day, to do an immersive installation like experience, like interactive, where people can come in and be like, this is how Kavi grew up. I'm feeling the emotions that she did when she moved when she was 12, when she got bullied and had to go to a school for a year, like when she got kicked out of her house, like, just like all these things. Like, there's so much deeper things that you don't know about somebody.
Your pieces are very extensive.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you're just seeing it on Instagram.
I've only seen them on Instagram, and they really pop out.
Thank you.
They really, really pop out.
Thank you. And like Swoon, like there was this one show that I went to, and she had like her mom, her mom, she grew up in a very abusive household, and her mom passed away of alcohol poisoning, and I believe so. But anyways, don't quote me on that. But and she had like a message that her mom had sent her on voicemail, and you could pick up the phone and listen, and like you could walk through her childhood home that she created out of like paper, and it was just like you get to experience the life of an artist, like in a way that you never even thought.
Wow.
Like just seeing it online, great, but I want people to be able to like see me not just like at a surface level. Like I want people to experience things that I've experienced
when
too.
You have ideas, so let's say you were to create an immersive experience like this, are you creating this yet? Do you have notes on your phone? Do you have a notebook? Where do you write when you meet women who inspire you? Do you then take your phone out and you have a note where you just start writing down ideas, or do you have a notepad?
I do. I have everything on my phone, and I just have so many notes. I already have my immersive, like future experience manifested. I spent my childhood summers and even like Christmas break in India. I was born there, but I wasn't raised there, and I just have such a connection with India, and so I want the experience to be like I was back in my childhood setting, feeling so free and myself before anybody told me who I should be and how I should act,
Yeah, I feel like in the last like few years you've gotten taller.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Both like physically, probably just from the weight of being off your shoulders and just like being you.
Yeah. No, it's been like really transforming, like transformative. Like I just feel I'm led to, like, even my ideas, like I dream them. Like I it's like an outer body experience. I've tried to explain it before. Like, I look at my art. I was like severely just in a terrible place a few months ago, and I was like looking at my art in the studio, and I'm like, whose is this? Like, who made this? It wasn't me.
But that's an era.
You know?
But all those pieces are of a certain era of your life. And that's going to be kind of that chapter.
Right.
And while you might not like it, it's because it was from a downtime when you were creating those pieces. But in 10 years from now, those pieces might be more valuable because, like, that was the unique time. That was like the small period where she was going through shit. And then here's everything got more vibrant.
Right.
And now everything's vibrant and fun and great and inspiring. But the depressing stuff, like, I want that.
Right. And there's always, like, for me, like, I always have some kind of glimmer of positivity in my work, even though there's like this shadow also. But it's interesting how when I'm so disconnected from myself, I look at my art and don't even recognize that I am so talented that I could create something. I just, you can just be so down on yourself, and
that's life.
Yeah. And like, I always tell my really good friend, Angela, we always like have these little pep talks, and I'm like, we can do hard things, and every day's a new day. And so yesterday I had the best day. Today was a little hectic, and like, you just have to like concentrate on that glimmer that makes you so happy. And hopefully it'll just take over with the work, or I just cry on the sofa. That feels
sometimes you gotta do it. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Cry on the sofa, cry in the shower, just like belt it out.
Yeah,
And then you go take a breath and you move on.
Right, and then there's a new piece maybe. So
in a similar vein, are you reading anything right now?
Right now I'm reading the new Young Pueblo book, Inward. Yeah, I just started it today on the plane.
And if there was one book you would recommend to anybody, what would it be?
Oh man, I'd say, actually, one of my really good friends bought it for me. It's Untamed by Glennon. Oh man, we have to look up the Glennon.
We'll look it up.
Yes.
We got it.
Oh my.
We'll put it up there.
It was the most beautiful and like life-changing book for me. And she talks about, they told me no, but God gave me a knowing. And like, to me, like, I just got chills, because it's like, we're told so many times we can't do something, and it's almost sadly ingrained in us when we're small. And then you meet people along the way that might not be your chosen, your given family, but your chosen family and your friends, and you are just, it's a beautiful thing to be able to be uplifting like your friend like during their career, and like all the highs and all the lows, and knowing that like you're choosing to be with this person along the way, and listening to your intuition. And this book was just all about that, and I just love like hearing stories like that, and it's based on a true story, like her life.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you meditate?
I meditate every morning at 5 in the morning.
Do you TM or any specific type of meditation?
So I do like my own silent meditation, and then I also do like the Deepak Chopra app meditations too.
Awesome. And if you're ever stressed throughout the day, do you do breath work?
I do, yeah.
How long have you been practicing breath work?
So before I did real estate, I was teaching yoga.
Oh.
And so I've been doing breath work for almost 15 years now.
You're pretty much certified.
I actually am a certified yoga teacher.
There you go.
Yeah.
Amazing. So before I let you go, give me one word of advice for anyone trying to make it.
Sounds so simple, but you have to sit with yourself in silence and ask all the tough questions, because only you have the answers. And if you want something, You have to be so relentless and just try your hardest. I know it sounds so simple, but if you don't try, you'll never know. And you're going to be led, I truly feel, you're going to be led down the path you are supposed to be on. Like, there's no, I don't see, at least for me, that's what happened. Like, I literally went from pharmacy then to try to be a, like, dental hygienist because I wanted to work so much. I got laid off in PR. I ended up doing public relations, advertising, and then yoga teacher, got pregnant, did real estate. I mean, and then I ended up, of course, doing art. But one thing about me is I always knew I wanted to work, and I knew that whatever I did, I'd give 100% in doing it. And there's never been a day that I regret, like, doing what I do because I love it. Even the hard stuff, I just love it.
Let's rock.
Yeah.
You're going to see her art all over the world.
Thank you.